The Netherlands finally concedes, agreeing to return Ensured Semiconductor control. The Netherlands has finally bowed its haughty head and agreed to return the controlling stake in Ensured Semiconductor to the Chinese enterprise. The moment this news broke, the internet was filled with cheers of complete victory, and we showed them. But today, I must pour a bucket of cold water on this celebration. If you believe that merely getting the asset back means the matter is completely resolved, you are not only incredibly naive but are playing right into the opponent's hands. This is not some story of returning the property intact, but an attempted, daylight robbery that was foiled. When a robber, finding he cannot escape, has to put down the stolen goods, should we thank him for his visit? That's neither logical nor common sense. Let's dissect this issue. It's like you bought a house, your name is on the deed, and you pay the property manager on time. But then, this manager conspires with external thugs, changes the locks, and tries to evict you, the owner, under the ridiculous pretext of maintaining neighborhood safety. Now, seeing they can no longer withstand the pressure, the manager tosses the keys back and says, "Fine, you can have your house." If you simply smile, walk back in, and fail to pursue the manager for the furniture he smashed, the rent he embezzled, or even call the police to arrest him, then the next time you leave, your house will surely be occupied again. This is called sovereignty is returned, but justice has not been served. The deeper horror lies in the fact that this is not just a simple commercial dispute, it's a stress test by certain Western powers attempting to directly confiscate Chinese overseas legal assets through administrative measures. If we are merely satisfied with reclaiming the equity this time, we are essentially telling the world, the cost of robbing Chinese assets is zero. If you don't succeed, just give it back. No jail time, no compensation. This is the biggest hidden danger. This concerns not just one semiconductor company but whether the fundamental global commercial rules still exist. Next, let's properly settle the score and see what price these backstabbing executives and the knife-wielding Dutch side behind them must pay. The most infuriating part of this incident is not the external pressure but the internal betrayal. The Dutch executives at Ensured Semiconductor, who pocketed millions in annual salary from their Chinese bosses and drank Chinese wine, turned around and orchestrated a scene of senior employees rebelling. They exploited loopholes in local Dutch law to try and sideline the Chinese board of directors. This behavior, in any country's commercial textbook, is called a breach of trust. In business ethics, a professional manager's primary duty is to be accountable to the shareholders. But these people? They elevated political alignment above commercial contract. This reminds me of the former Alstom executive, Frederick Pierucci, but the situation is fundamentally different. Pierucci was seized and held hostage by the Americans, while these insured executives voluntarily became guides for the Americans. They thought that by aligning with the politically correct side, they could kick out the true owner and turn the company into their independent kingdom. This act of eating China's food while trying to smash China's pot, if only resolved with a mere termination, would be an insult to the law. In the mature commercial systems of Europe and America, actions that severely damage the company's interests and violate fiduciary duties must face massive civil compensation or even criminal charges. Look at how the Americans handle things. Uber founder Travis Kalanick was forced out by investors merely for management-style issues, while these Dutch executives directly attempted to steal control, 1,000,000 times worse in nature. This is more than just a personnel change, it's a trial on global business ethics. If Chinese companies overseas raise the issue with a bang but resolve it with a whimper, every acquired foreign executive will follow suit in the future. Take the money, then revolt. If you fail, no loss. If you succeed, you're a national hero. We must shatter this fantasy. We must not only dismiss these executives but also initiate global legal action to recover all economic losses and brand goodwill damage caused by their rebellion. They must be made to understand that betraying the spirit of contract will not only cost them their jobs, but will also bankrupt them. This is the highest respect for global business rules and the most hardcore maintenance of the spirit of contract. 2. Now let's talk about the Dutch side. Why did they back down this time? Not out of a crisis of conscience, but because they felt pain, or rather, feared more pain. Initially, the Dutch government thought it was clever, cooperate with the US's grand strategy, choke the Chinese company, claim credit from the Big Brother, and forcibly keep high-end manufacturing in Europe. A perfect two-bird one-stone plan. But they clearly underestimated two things. First, China's determination to defend its legitimate overseas interests. Second, the backlash from blindly following the US look at Japan and South Korea next door. After blindly complying with US sanctions in the semiconductor sector, what happened? Samsung and Hynix's business in China struggled, and profits plummeted. Did the Netherlands think it could stay out of it? Don't forget, China is the world's largest semiconductor consumer market. We can reference a classic, negative example, the Toshiba incident of the 1980s. When Japan's Toshiba exported machine tools to the Soviet Union, the US seized the pretext, arrested Toshiba executives, smashed Toshiba radios in protest, and forced the Japanese Prime Minister to apologize in the US. The result? The Japanese semiconductor industry had its spine broken by the US, and decades of accumulated effort were forcibly harvested. Today's Europe is treading the path of Japan. If the Dutch government doesn't wake up, Ensured Semiconductor is just the beginning. The future of ASML is also precarious. If you cooperate with the US to implement decoupling and severing supply chains, the US won't give you a medal. It will suck your blood dry and transfer your industries to the US mainland. The Dutch government's miscalculation is a typical reflection of Europe's current awkward position in geopolitics. Lacking strategic autonomy, acting like a puppet on a string. They thought they were safeguarding national security, but in reality, they were serving as consumables for US hegemony. This short-sighted behavior directly damages the ecosystem of global technological cooperation. We must make the Netherlands understand that China supports global technological development, but will never accept the logic of the bandit. This retreat must be accompanied by deep reflection. If the Dutch side is not made to pay a diplomatic and economic price for its reckless administrative intervention, they will act against Chinese companies again next time, merely upon a glance from the US. Only by hurting them can they learn what independent autonomy means. 3. Balanced scale. Why we must seek compensation. It's about setting the rule. Many say that Chinese people value harmony is precious. Since we got the control back, we shouldn't be too aggressive. Wrong. Completely wrong. In the jungle of international geopolitical games, excessive tolerance is interpreted as weakness. Look at how Western countries handle similar matters. The EU casually issues fines of billions of euros to Google and Apple, based merely on monopoly, or data privacy. The US is the master of extraterritorial jurisdiction. BNP Paribas of France was fined $8.9 billion by the US for transferring money for countries like Sudan, not only paying the fine but also forcing executives to step down and banning some dollar clearing services. What is this? This is setting the rule. Now, the Dutch side cooperated with the executives to stage this coup d'état, which led to Ensured Semiconductor's strategic stagnation, internal turmoil, and stock price volatility for a long time. Who will pay for this massive hidden loss? If we do not seek compensation, we are effectively admitting the legitimacy of this political intervention in commerce. We seek compensation not for the money but for the precedent. We must use legal means to define this incident as an illegal attempt at commercial encroachment. We need the world to see that messing with Chinese corporate assets comes with a real, hard cost. This is like regulating environmental pollution. Merely shutting down the factory is not enough. You must fine them until it truly hurts, so they won't dare to pollute next time. In-depth analysis. The essence of seeking compensation is a struggle for pricing power. The West has long monopolized the interpretation and penalty rights for international commercial disputes. They decide who to fine. Now, it's the Chinese enterprises' turn to use Western legal weapons to fight back against the West. This is not just an economic calculation, it's a legal war. By seeking compensation, we are declaring to the world, Chinese enterprises are not lambs to be slaughtered, and our overseas assets are sacred and inviolable. This kind of firmness is precisely what is needed to maintain true global peace and security. Because only when everyone respects the rules and respects the consequences will banditry decrease, and normal commercial order can be established. This is the true stopping war through war.